You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Every second year, the University of Manitoba's Opera Theatre Ensemble and Symphony Orchestra come together for a staged production. Though this year, of course, they couldn't come too close together. Despite the barriers presented by the pandemic, they've still found a way to produce a physically distanced opera, the Henry Purcell classic Dido and Aeneas. And to hear more, we've reached two of the performers involved, Chelsea Kooten and EmilyAnn Dueck. Hello to you both.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
so before we get to the opera, Chelsea, let me start with you and the obvious. You're a singer, and singing has been nearly taboo for a year now. What's it been like as a voice major at the Desautels Faculty of Music?
Great question. It's been a very new experience. Just because we're working a lot in the digital medium now, there's not as much in-person singing. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience to learn how to sing so far apart from everyone, learn how to sing through masks, learn how to communicate when you're wearing a mask, and just the process of working together with other musicians when you have to be so far apart, or like working through Zoom, has just been a really interesting process.
Yeah, I feel like interesting is a great way to put it, a very diplomatic way to put it, because I'm sure there are challenges. What about upsides? Like, are there any pros to these online lessons and classes?
I think the pro is that we're still able to make music, we're still able to connect, and I think that's been really important for myself and probably a lot of other people during this time when we are so isolated. Just to be able to come together and create and share an experience has been really important for me.
EmilyAnn, what about for you? I mean, obviously, making music is a bit of a rarity these days, especially as a shared experience. Have you had the opportunity to perform much, or would you echo the sentiment that we just heard from Chelsea in terms of it just being a rare opportunity?
It really is a rare opportunity. Like, I have not performed on stage since February 2020.
Wow.
So basically a whole year. Besides some online things, like, not much.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that this production has come together is a really special moment for you both as students and for us as audience, because there haven't been a lot of performances like we're used to. Chelsea, let me come back to you quickly. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about the story for those who maybe aren't familiar with Dido and Aeneas? What's it all about?
Sure. So Dido and Aeneas is the story of Dido, who is queen of Carthage, and it's how she falls in love with Aeneas, who is prince of Troy, um, in a hope to kind of unite their kingdoms and strengthen both. Meanwhile, there's this evil sorceress who's plotting against Dido, and she is successful in this, in tearing them apart in the end.
Yeah, one of those profound tragedies. Who do you play in the production?
I played the second woman in the production, so she's one of Dido's handmaidens.
Nice. And then, so in terms of the ensemble itself, it's a pretty small cast, right?
Very
How
small,
how
very
many
small.
singers are involved?
I believe there was 8 of us altogether.
Yeah,
It's been so long since we did it.
yeah, I was gonna say this was recorded back in November, right, prior to the shutdown.
hmm
Nice. And then in terms of the cast itself, you said about eight singers involved, and an all-female cast too, right?
Yes, traditionally, Aeneas is played by a male, but we had a shortage of tenors in the master's program, tenors and baritones for that matter. And so, yeah, both Naomi Wu, the conductor, and Catherine Twaddle decided to put together an all-female production of the play, which was really cool for us to work on.
Absolutely. And I think it'll be really cool for the audience to hear as well. Like I mentioned, this was recorded back in November prior to the shutdown, though still limitations in terms of gathering sizes and the number of people involved, which obviously had an impact on singers. But what about for you, EmilyAnn, and the orchestra? How many players are in this production?
Oh, I think there was about 6 or 7 players. And it was really small. It was really hard to like see each other because we're all in this big room, but the orchestra was kind of watching the performance as it was going on. So I had people all behind me, and as concertmaster, like, you have to do all these cues, but like I couldn't necessarily see everybody. It was just a really awkward situation, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like kind of overcoming that adversity. I'm just trying to picture it now. As concertmaster, your fellow players were behind you.
Yes. So there was The other first violin was behind me to my right, and the other second violins were on my left with the violas behind. There were some cellos in the front. So I could see the cellos, but I couldn't see the rest of my section. So it was definitely strange, but it was all good.
And then for you, Chelsea, what about as a performer? I mean, obviously, everyone's wearing masks and stuff, and having your face. I mean, facial expressions are such a huge part of acting and in singing. What happens when half of your face isn't there?
Yeah, great question. It was definitely a big learning curve for me as a performer, just because we are so reliant on facial expressions, especially when communicating from a distance. And with the mask, like you said, that aspect was removed. So we became really reliant on eye contact and physical gesture for kind of communicating emotions from such a distance.
This is a Baroque opera, Dido and Aeneas, and Baroque opera. They used to strike a pose when they would sing. I've got to ask, did you guys also learn about Baroque opera poses? I feel like Mel's an expert on this.
Yeah, we did. We did learn about Baroque opera poses in our acting class in like conjunction with this production. So in the production that we did, we have a bit of a modified Baroque gesture system.
Can you tell us about one of those poses? Like what do they look like and what are they supposed to communicate?
Oh man, I don't know how I could really describe this. Yeah, it's just like arms overhead or like, pointing in the direction of the hills and that kind of thing. Just, I would say like pretty standard gestures, but that help communicate the story, I guess. Everything we did was to try and communicate the story in a visual way and an auditory way.
Yeah, very statuesque, right? Like you can look at a statue and still understand that they're telling a story and that just kind of translating for the stage. Now, the last thing I want to ask you about, have either of you seen the final production since this was recorded back in November?
No.
Neither of you have. How are you feeling about it, EmilyAnn? Are you excited to see it? Are you excited to hear it too?
I am. I'm really excited for it to come out on Thursday night because I just want to know how it like turned out because we recorded it once and it's just like I don't know how it went. So,
what about for you, Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it all came together. It was such a fun process putting it together, so I'm just really excited for us to be able to share that experience with other people now.
Well, it all goes live tonight, available on the Desautels Faculty of Music YouTube channel, and will be available through March, the end of March, free to view. We've got details up on the website, classic107.com, under the events tab. Chelsea, EmilyAnn, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me here at Classic 107 today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.